Hello and welcome to Decorate It. My name is Mary and this is Wes. And tonight we are talking about thinking outside the box, which is kind of where I live, honestly.
All day, every day.
A little bit of Wonderland. I actually wore my We're All Mad Here shirt today because it's an Alice thing.
I wore my mud hole shirt because it's comfy.
Why do we want to think outside the box when it comes to building custom fishing rods?
Because in the box is on the shelf.
Oh, good answer. Always quick to the point with yours. I would like to say that sometimes we have to tie themes in order to make the entire rod kind of blend together and be kind of styled in the theme, if you will. And also solving problems to things that don't exist. Biggest example I can give is winding checks on surf rods.
Yeah, because they're big enough to use a lot of other things.
You can take a walk through Home Depot or Lowe's and find some, what was it that we used on the Hulkbuster?
The air chuck adapter.
Yeah, well, and I've got pictures of it tonight, but the air chuck adapter. And let me tell you, prying that thing apart and not messing up the metal that was on it, or aluminum. What is it made out of?
Probably brass, honestly.
But I dented one of them. The other one, it was fun getting that apart, but it fit the Hulkbuster rod just perfectly and made a cute little trim band. Really, we really didn't use it
as a trim.
We used it as a trim, not a winding check. But for the most part, surf rods, like, you just don't have as big of things to use. Some other things for why we want to think outside the box is generally just to make the rods unique and
Make them stand out.
make them stand out a little bit more.
If you're going to, I'm going to try to word this as nicely as possible.
Oh Lord,
If you're going to build a custom fishing rod, why not take the time to build something better than they can spend $200 to $300 on the shelf at Bass Pro or Cabela's or local tackle shop? Or why are you not going above and beyond and charging for it?
well, my
They're
thing is,
coming to you for a custom rod.
it's custom, and custom is custom. Like, it should be unique to the individual. There's a difference. The custom rods, and then you got the production line of rods, and then you've got performance style lot. Like, there's different categories of this stuff. So you're knocking out performance rods left and right because that's what you sell. We're not talking about you. You're doing a specific line of rods for a specific reason, and you're making money probably doing that. Same thing with the production rods. It's specific task oriented. My whole focus is one-offs. I don't ever want to duplicate anything. And that's just the little niche I put myself into because it's a small niche. But from tonight's examples, you'll be able to see that there's a lot of things that you can do to customize, and it's just itty-bitty little details.
Just little things.
So it's not like you have to go crazy and go take a trip into Wonderland and drink the potion and get really small and then get really big when you eat some bread or whatever and, go crazy. But you can add little cool details to make it very unique or fit the theme.
Drink the potion and eat the bread.
Yeah, Alice has to drink the potion to get smaller, and then she has to eat the little cake thing to be able to get bigger.
Oh, I got it now.
It's Alice. It's Alice.
I got it.
Gotta follow.
I wasn't.
Gotta come through that door. And that's basically it for why you really should just kind of think outside the box. It's problem solving something, and there actually is one tonight where it's a performance thing of problem solving. So maybe you realize, I don't know, like the guys on the pier will add the little bells so they know whenever it's starting. So, you could incorporate that somewhere into it, or even put an inch ruler to make sure that whenever they pull up whatever they're fishing for, it meets what's the requirement for you to be able to keep it. You guys that are painting the tips of your catfish rods or doing it in the neon or the glow in the dark threads, that's customizing it for a performance thing so that you can see the tip at night. And there's
also little tubes that you can wrap onto the tips and stick a glow stick in it.
Is there?
Yeah.
I wonder how heavy that would make the tip, though.
That's not that bad.
I've never seen
Usually for that style of fishing where you're just sitting and waiting, you don't need sensitivity.
Yeah, you're just like, please hit it, please hit it, please
hit it. You're just
hit
sitting, waiting, wishing, fishing.
Wishing on a fish. I want to be catching, not just fishing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go ahead and take a look at these photos because this is kind of where we can spend a lot of our conversation tonight on just the details and the options, and to really just kind of get an idea of outside the box. Doesn't have to be crazy, but these are some good ideas that everybody's had.
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Abby's up first. So this is one I got to see her kind of testing this out. So this was a galaxy themed build that she was doing. She splatter painted in full paper with acrylic ink so that it mimicked the galaxy anodization that she had done. So all of this that's underneath the thread work that she's got, she was trying to replicate what she had in the anodization as well. So there's a couple photos of this. See how her real seed is? So it was kind of cool to look at like what she created and then how she added it back onto the rod. So a very unique way to kind of carry the theme all the way through. Trying something and then was super excited that it worked out. And this is one of those builds. I really love that acrylic with the honeycomb in it. Oh my God. That's sexy.
That's cool.
And it fits so perfectly with it. Adam Clements.
Is that the Petoskey?
That's the Petoskey stone. Yes, it is.
Petoskey.
I had to go. I actually asked Google how to pronounce it so I wouldn't butcher it. But yeah, it's Petoskey.
You got to say it with the
I don't know the Minnesota accent, so you can't ask me.
Minnesota. Petoskey.
But this is a really cool stone. He found this one, so he actually had to shape it in order to get it to fit into the butt cap that he put it into. But I really enjoy that stone. Like, that's a really cool looking thing, if you will. But adding stones or anything like that to the butt caps, it's different, you know? It's outside the box. You wouldn't normally put it in there. And on top of that, you could use it as a weight, depending on how heavy it was, to counterbalance, you know, it being tip heavy or something. Brada B. Wraps coming in with using bandanas for his decorative area. And what is the company that's doing them as handles now?
Huh?
There's a company that's doing these as grips. They're doing them the handles. You don't know?
No.
You haven't seen it?
No.
Oh, they're doing it. God.
I don't believe you.
No, it's legit. USA made or something of that nature.
I hadn't seen that.
Anyways, you can get grips with bandanas on it too. But this is, you know, you can use bandanas or you can have fabric, ribbons, any of that stuff, as long as you don't get the ones with the wire in it because it doesn't bend very well and won't flatten out as well as just regular stuff. And I would think it's just as easy to put CP on it and then kind of wrap over it because that's usually how I adhere things 99% of the time. So it should be pretty.
As long as the CP wouldn't like show through somehow if it like missed a spot.
Well, I think for this is you'd have to test if it bled, you know, like if that's going on a black blank or a blue blank, you know, like would it change colors or would you have to put white underneath of it before you put it on there kind of thing.
Right.
This is Chris Denton, so this is a performance thing that he's come up with. It's a mixture of 3 different metals, but it's a wire that he's made into an ice fishing spring bobber, basically a visual bite indicator. And so he adds it onto the tips of his ice rods, and each of the 3 have different weights for mass, etc. and stuff. So it's a customization for an actual performance thing. And that's another picture of one of them as well. And like you can see where it's added onto the tip there. So it's basically just epoxied on so that you get the little spring bobber. I thought that was pretty neat because it was, you know, probably fixing a problem that they were having, maybe. I don't know. I don't know much about ice fishing. So.
I don't either. I know it's cold.
It's cold, yeah. It's very cold. All right, so David Alexander. So this is actually, that is the aluminum top to a Ralph Lauren Polo red cologne bottle. And he's pulled all the guts out of it and then shaped a bottle stopper for the cork to put on there.
Okay.
Bottle stoppers and stuff of that nature are kind of cool. Lids. They're very decorative, as long as they would hold up, you know.
There's a nice whiskey topper inside right now.
Mm-hmm. All right, so this is another one of David Alexander. All right, so this one is a counterweight to balance his swim bait rod. And he used a 3/8 Allen head stainless steel bolt that he filled with glitter and resin and then stuck it on his butt. The next one is...
Buffalo Trace Distillery.
Yep, he used the cork and wood stopper off of that to make the butt. And he said it was a small bottle.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a 357 mag spent round that he put through cork for the butt. And this one is a black leather button that he used. And he inlaid in his favorite burl.
Very nice.
Very nice, very, very nice. But David, just a little critique. Love your ingenious. Love the things you're doing. But your photos make it really hard to focus on your awesomeness here. I see everything in the background and I want to play Where's Waldo of what's going on in the background. So David Alexander has taken my flat painting on the protective sheets and ran with it. He says this is so addicting, it's not even funny. And
it's super simple to do.
Super simple. Like, it's really, honestly, if you can't figure out how to marble on a rod because it's just aggravating, do it flat. Do it flat. And just use it on a bunch of flat page protectors is what I do it on, because you really don't need that much for rods. It doesn't really, unless you're doing like a massive like area you're trying to make a marbled section, but I wouldn't recommend it because the seam's going to be pretty obvious. But he just ran with it. And this photo down here with the red, he started to cut it apart. You can see he's cut part of that section apart. And this is the one he used it on. So this is a mixture of a bunch of different things. Red lizard for the chevron. So he's actually taken the red leather skin for the chevron. And then he's outlined it in a friendship bracelet thread. And then he's added on the paint in between the gaps. So that's a lot to add together, but it kind of works. And obviously this is pre-epoxy, so don't judge it too horribly about, you know, the ups and downs going on it. But that's actually pretty cool. Just mixing a whole bunch of things, just being unique, honestly. Is another one of David's. This is black lizard skin for the chevron, and then outlined it again with friendship bracelet thread. I thought it was just embroidery thread for the friendship bracelets. At least that's what it was. Where I
never made those.
I made a couple. I got bored with it. I did the lanyards for a little bit. I got bored with them too.
I didn't have friends to give them to.
Yeah, I didn't either. I always just made them for myself. I ended up being like one of those, like in the movies where they always had like the California girls. They were the teenagers and had like 20,000 bracelets on their arms. Like that was me for
I remember.
a couple months. Yeah, you do remember. All right, so David Alexander again. He has brought in orange catfish mono, the 10 pound, and he's put it over a white blank. So that's just mono over top of a white blank. And then he believes it was the clear 10 pound fluorocarbon that he's wrapped over this wrap, and the edges of it is where he really liked the effect, because it kind of, what it did was it pixelated it. I've tried this one time before. I did it on that kaleidoscope wrap because Jim Treleaky suggested it just to see what it would do, and it gives it kind of this pixelated look to it, but it kind of gave him what appeared to be olive branches at the edges of that thread where you can see where it's rippling. More David Alexander. So he likes to use a lot of buttons that his wife collects, and he will, if they have holes in them, he'll use his lure eyes to fill the hole, and then he'll put like UV resin over them and then coat them. So, look at that one with the green. It kind of looks like it's staring at you.
That's cool.
So these are just all buttons he's used. That one's fun. And you can find a bunch of buttons at those antique places.
We need to stop at one of those again.
Yep, and there's the black leather button again. Yeah, antique places have a lot of really cool buttons. This is Garrett Honecker. So I really enjoy this. This is super clean. But he's taken abalone and he's used it to trim out at the edge right before the winding, or the trim rings winding checks, just to kind of add a little bit of pizzazz. And I think that is, what is that one? Is that one the stingray skin?
Probably.
I want to try that. And then Garrett Honecker was also sharing that he uses a lot of leather fabric for grip making. So they apparently have different leathers that have different prints and colors and textures and stuff like that. And it's real thin. So you could just either add it in a little section or use that for the whole grip. And like that's a cool little option to know about, you know.
Is he the one that sent us that gold cork?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the gold cork one that I have yet to have time to do anything with.
I see a snake.
So Gary Durkee, dig this. I do. I'm not a huge snake fan, but I dig this. Like, this is pretty awesome. Snake skin for the split, and then he's found these either rings, or I don't know exactly what they were because he didn't say, but they are perfectly placed on there. And then the grips also appear to be some sort of skin as well. So this is like just
snaky.
Snaky. Snaky. But I really dig the little snake trims, and they're in a place where your hand's really not going to deal with it that much. And that's what we have to think about when we start thinking outside the box. Is my hands or is the customer's hands going to be dealing with this spot? Or are they going to be rubbing it? Is it going to cause a problem? Is it a hindrance? You know, as long as it doesn't cause any issues where you're putting it, it doesn't matter. Greg Heffler, that is a butt cap from tube stock and finished with brass. So he does a lot of his butts like that. Lori Bard Didn't quite get a detailed explanation of what this is, but that does appear to either be some sort of abalone or shell or juma that she's put as the trim. Could possibly be a stone. I haven't seen abalone.
Could be a ring.
Could be a ring, but it's just a different way to put a trim somewhere using a very unique material. Lori, this is a baseball bat grip. The tape.
That's cool.
Yeah. And when you look at the rest of the rod from what we can see in the photo, perfect.
Yeah, goes with it.
And if you guys were in Southern and saw me posting this, and Lori said, I got to get my photos together, I said, I need the Kraken. This is the Kraken rod. Because this is the first time that I actually saw somebody put something of this nature on a rod. And I just loved this entire thing. So she has put this on there and then coated it with epoxy, but hasn't tried to completely cover it, because you got to remember, that'd be so much epoxy trying to get that level. You don't want to add all that extra weight. So it's, when you're doing this, you're either going to put it on the surface and kind of put it underneath and kind of coat it and hope for the best, which we don't want to do that because we don't ever want to have anything fail. Or you're going to coat it and it's just not going to be level. You know, it's just it's a design thing. So if you can't stand not having level epoxy, figure out another place to place it. More photos of this rod. I really dig that wrap. I haven't done one of those patterns yet. I want to do one. That decorative wrap flashes with that little gold she's put in there. Named perfectly, the Kraken Hunter. So she's carried those little legs, like octopus legs, like all the way up. Like, I think that's pretty awesome. You can see it here too. It just makes it very custom, very unique. You know, somebody steals that rod, definitely would be able to give a description of it, and it'd be the only one out there, you know. This is a turquoise inlay, so crushed turquoise. Another option to think about with your grips and stuff. If you want to add some color to them, look into the crushed stones and look into figuring out how to add that into, like you would look in the woodworking stuff on YouTube or in books and see how they add it into their stuff. Another one of Lori's, very nicely done. This is actually a octopus pendant for a necklace that she's put here. So you can see from this one, it was obviously a lot thinner in diameter, so it was able to be put completely under the epoxy. Pendants make great things as long as they're not too fat, you know. Walking through Hobby Lobby, there is so much stuff that you could just incorporate to your rods. It's insane. You just have to think about how thick it is. More Lori's awesome stuff. I don't know exactly what that butt was, but she's used Juma with this, but that butt on this one is just so cool. And almost kind of reminds me of a fingerprint, or like a, not a fingerprint. First glance kind of looks like a fingerprint, but it looks more like a whirlpool.
Alice's hole.
Kind of falling into Alice's hole. All right, so this is a full photo that Manuel shared with us, and the next one is what he did for the butts on both of those. So they're fly rods, and this is mesquite wood that obviously he's sunk in some coins into. The real seat and the butts are made out of that. So the real seats too. I want to go back to that because I kind of flipped through it pretty fast. That looks really good. Very nicely done, sir. Very nicely done. All right, so this is one of mine. This is just another example of the using that marbling to kind of put back in there as a trim. So that's what we call, I call it, I don't know, flat marbling, I guess, if you will. I got the idea from watching people do paint pours, and they were doing it flat, and obviously I thought, oh, that'd be fun. And then the more I was looking into it, somebody came on a video on TikTok, and they said, yeah, you can take your extras that get stuck to the trash bags and stuff, and you can peel it up and stick it on other things. And I thought, well, heck, I can't marble on a rod. Why can't I do it flat and do it that way? So that's kind of how it happened.
And you still didn't use your marbling.
That was your marbling. Yes, it was. That wasn't mine. Welcome to Mary's stuff, where we are really outside the box. So this is part of that hot dog build. You couldn't have convinced me that I would have put condiment wrappers on guide wraps a year ago, but this is where we are. For the most part, these went on like bamboo splinters under my nails. It's not easy, I'm going to be honest. There was a whole lot of cursing because my first one that I tried was the Taco Bell one, and it went on without a hitch. And these proved to not behave the same way, probably because the diameter is so small. But I just cut the wrappers as close to as I could and stuck them on there with a mixture of CP and super glue to get them to stay.
And then what happened?
So Mary got really excited. She wrapped the guides. They were all white underneath because I was going to do the water slide decals, and started putting those on there. Remember, I used a mixture of CP and super glue to get them to stay because I stood there.
Oh yeah,
for a
she
long
got
time.
them to stay.
I stood there for a long time trying to get them to hold on there, but CP takes a while to dry and gets tacky, right? I forgot to straighten the guides. So the 3 that we had them on, we got 2 of them. No, one of them was able to be corrected. The other 2, I had to rip it back off, so I got to fix it. So that's the thank you, Wes, for throwing that out there.
You're welcome.
He always wants to be like, you messed up. You can put condiment wrappers on there. Highly don't recommend it because it is a pain in the butt. But what I had to do also was after I got them stuck was to wrap over them with a big size thread to sink them down to the shape of the foot, and then let that dry, and then pulled it off, and then I came back and trimmed the edge with just a single color that matched the condiment color. So Hellman's got white, Heinz got red, and French's is in there, but for some reason the mustard one did not load beside these. And I also put ribbon on it because the red and white is supposed to match the plates that you get or you see. The plates are
The
the
paper.
tablecloths that you see at 4th of July barbecues. Another one of mine. Other things you can add. Stickers. I had everybody's mind blown with how I got put this on there, and I made a little video, and I was like, it's super complicated. I hand spun wire, and you can actually do that, but this is just stickers. These are scrapbook stickers. I found these specifically like 5 or 6 years ago at Hobby Lobby. They're called Stickabilities or Stickabilities or Stickabillies or something. But anyways,
Stickably.
they don't make that brand anymore. You have to go looking for it, and you can't find silver. You can find the gold ones, but you can't find silver. So this situation is, if you see it, buy it. You might use it in 5 or 6 years, but you'll at least have it, and you can make some cool filigree looking stuff. And it literally is peel it off, and it sticks great to epoxy. It stuck okay to the thread, but I didn't like how it was maneuver around a little bit. But once you put epoxy over top of it, just kind of make sure you smashed it in there, because one of these sections I did have it lift a little bit, and I had to smash it back down, and that wasn't fun because it actually snapped off, and I had to relocate it back and put it back together. So you get to hear all the fun things Mary does on the side that I don't always tell you. Like, oh yeah, I messed it up. I broke it, but I put it back together.
The intro to flat marble.
This was the intro to the flat marbling. I loved this one because when I posted it, I didn't tell anybody what it did. I was just like, a new little trick to close wraps, right? And just posted it because you guys know I'm going to tell you anyways, but I just like to see how people react. And I had so many people going, wait a minute, did you do marbling after you did the wrap, or did you wrap before? What did you do? And I'm like, oh, it's not that hard. I just marbled flat and stuck it back on there. So one of the test runs I was doing for marbling flat, I had this wrap in mind for this, and I can't remember what this wrap was for. It wasn't for a customer. I think it was a demo I was doing, and I just wanted to finish it.
Yeah, you just wanted to be done with it.
And so I just stuck that on there just to see what would happen. And that stuff is surprisingly sticky. Like, I put a little thing of CP underneath of it and let it kind of get tacky, and then just kind of stuck it on there. But if you're sticking it straight to the blank, make sure you put it exactly where you want it, because it's not coming back up without ripping. So, FYI. How do I know? Because I did it. The Sugar Skull series. This is the first Sugar Skull I ever did. These are just dried flowers. Now, specific ones that I ordered were for your fingernails. When I got, you'll see it on another photo, when I got into doing the thread ramp and other things, I actually just ordered dried flowers for scrapbooking. And they all came from Amazon, so you can order them however you want to. They get put on there. The only thing is they're dried, okay? So we have to take these little flowers out of their little boxes, because they come in these cute little boxes with some tweezers, and you can take them out, and you can pick off petals and do whatever you want to with them. They are dyed. Some of them bleed. I have not noticed the majority of them don't, but the blues are really touch and go. Some of the reds are too. But you have to take them out of their box and drop them in water for a little bit and rehydrate them. Otherwise, you're just going to tear them apart. Put some CP down, place them where you want to, just like you would a feather, and let it dry. And then what I usually do is instead of brushing over it for the second and third coat, I'll usually kind of basically pat the CP on there in like a big clump and just make sure it gets soaked for the second coat. And then the third coat, I will spin it to make sure everything adhered where it was supposed to. And then the little diamonds were just nail stud diamonds. And the white spots is fingernail polish. And I have daughter tools for it. Everything in that picture came off of Amazon. decorative wise, not the guide, obviously the blank or the thread, but the dotting tools also came off of Amazon, and the dotting tools are nail art stuff too. If you want pictures of the tools, just send me a message later and I'll show you. They have a bunch of different sizes. So the nail dried flowers are super flat. The dried flowers that are much bigger are not. So when I first put them on this thread ramp that I was trying to cover up, you can see this doesn't look too good. After these dried, I had to smash them down flat. So the center, especially that big yellow one, was sticking up. And I just took if I had it, I would have taken the CRB roller decal tool because it's good at smashing stuff. But I didn't have it at that time because they didn't make it. But I used multiple round tools to just roll over it like a rolling pin and just smash the hell out of it to get them as flat as possible. And then added more CP to it. But this was the experiment on those kind of dried flowers, and they turned out really good. But I just covered that whole black thread area with just flowers just to, Day of the Dead theme. There is Hulkbuster with a terrible photo. I don't know what we were doing when we were taking photos back then, but it wasn't good. So that is the
air chuck adapter.
Air chuck adapter. That little gold thing with the little dents in it. That's what that is. We walked through Lowe's with calipers and measuring, knowing how big the blank of the diameter was and how big the diameter to his aluminum butt was, and tried to find something in the middle, and that's what we found. Other fun things in that photo, the little circles are nail dots. They're nail studs is what they're called. They come on sticky paper. You peel them up, stick them back on. You don't really have to use CP with those.
The black rectangles are carbon fiber stickers
so
that we cut up.
I thought this would be a great idea. This is learning as you go. It was AB1 stickers, actually. We had a bunch of the decals, and I thought, oh, how cool would it be to have the carbon fiber look to it, But what happens when it gets epoxy over it? It just turns to a black rectangle. The silver drops are testers paint pens with the dotting tools, and that gray line running from left to right is actually thread I pulled under those two black ones. So I had a whole lot going on in this
And then
section.
the gold dots.
The gold dots is the nail studs I was talking about.
Do you have a picture of the gears?
I do. It's next. So this is prior to epoxy. Wes's Hulkbuster build has like a
10-year project.
Shut up. Has a steampunk vibe to it. And he's not kidding. It kind of has been that long. Hobby Lobby, once again, had these cool steampunk gears and cogs and stuff mixed into these little boxes. And I went through and I pulled out all of the gold ones that would match his rod. And my idea was the wrap, without the photo of it beside it, you might not kind of see it. But for Hulkbuster, this is supposed to be his leg where his components are coming together, okay? So like in one of his junctions at his knees or something. The cogs was just like, ooh, that'd be kind of fun. Because, like, obviously there's gears and things running inside of him that we don't see. Because, Iron Man does very slick designs and stuff. But I kind of wanted to put a steampunk vibe on it. So these spiraled up one axis all the way around, and how they were done was with CP. I'd drop the CP on them, I'd drop the cog on it, and I'd let it dry, and then I would turn it. So it took a very long time to get all those cogs on that wrap. But I did it, and I couldn't go and skip, and I had to make sure they fit. And I didn't do any bending to them because they all pretty much sat there. But once we put epoxy on it, obviously it didn't get flat because it had been a ton of layers. It's just an itty-bitty little kind of wave in that little area, so... And actually, you can see the epoxy in this photo. It's just a little wave. It's more noticeable to the touch than I can actually see it. But I laughed really hard when I posted these photos and the video of this because I broke the internet that day. And I had a massive just rolling on my butt laughing for hours on end because I let people just live it up and get mad. So many people were mad at me because they legitimately thought I screwed into the blank to get the guide foot there. I did not do that. I let it roll, and I laughed and made some, sarcastic comments and stuff. But I finally told them, no, guys, there's just screw heads that I sanded flat and just stuck on top of the guide foot. And the guide was wrapped in the silk thread, so it disappeared. And, man, I went through some testing trying to get that silk thread to disappear, and I still wasn't happy with the end results, but...
It looks good there, but...
That photo, it looks great, but when you see it in person, there's a little bit of a haze to it. Like, you can see it. I couldn't ever get it to go 100% clear. It was about 97, and I was just like... But I was so over it at that point, because I'd spent probably a month trying to go back between fluorocarbon and mono, and, You know, everybody kept telling me, oh, we'll do this or do this. And I had one of the rods we had that was a broken blank. I had like 20 different tests on it. I was legit putting myself through it. And then I just like, and then 3 times in a row with that silk, I tested it. All 3 times, everything came out perfect. I was like, great. I found the tension. I found the, you know, how we're supposed to do it. Put it on Hulk. They were hazing out. And I was like, son of a...
Taz was coming out.
Oh, Taz was mad. Taz was mad. But yeah, a lot of people thought I screwed into it. I had so many people, you just destroyed the integrity of that blank. And I'm like, do you really think that that blank would be sitting there pretty as it would be if I actually screwed the guide into the blank? It'd be cracked and all kinds of stuff right there. Yeah, I just puzzle pieced it back together and glued it. We're fine. Don't worry about it.
It's fine.
It'll be okay. I put a beach on a rod. The challenge for this rod, this was one of the International Rod Building Challenge rods, and we were supposed to mimic something about our state to represent our state, and South Carolina's our state. We wanted to do the beach, you know, beach nights. And so I wanted to put an actual beach going from the leather into the wrap. And the wrap, I did a 4-axis scales wrap to try to mimic white caps, if you will. And so the beach part was fun. That's actual sand from Myrtle Beach. That's actual shells, and there's a shark tooth in there I found. And they go, we have these in 1, 2, 3 sections.
Yeah.
We have 3 of them on there. And underneath this is
JB Weld.
the JB Weld, and shaped it. This one in particular, this one has the coolest shells on it, but this one in particular wasn't too happy with how the shape ended up. It needed to be just a wee bit tapered. But we couldn't get it sanded at that point in time because it turns into steel. And so we were just like, we'll go with it. But this is a 2018 rod.
And then we did tan thread.
Tan thread to cover up the ugly. And then I picked whatever tan was the closest to the actual sand. And then the sand was an absolute nightmare. CP, once again, packed the sand on there, let it dry, then rotated and repeated. Now, the CP doesn't hold all the sand in one spot in any way, shape, or form. So the biggest problem was applying epoxy to this thing, because after I got the first layer of sand on there, what I did was exactly what I did with the flowers. I went back and basically dropped CP super heavy and just let it just do its thing and just soak down into it, because I needed to make sure that that sand was secure and wasn't going to pull out and go somewhere else in the wrap or something like that. And there's probably like 4 or 5 layers of CP on these sections, and time consuming. The shells went on pretty easy. They got stuck pretty well, but we had to do 2 sets of epoxy. So when Wes was putting the epoxy on this, because he was better, he's always better at it than I am, but he would do the ramps, the thread ramps, and whatever you want to call them, and then he'd pick up a different cup to do the wraps because we just couldn't chance, because even after all of that, it was still pulling
until the epoxy like dried on it.
Once he got that first like 2 coats of epoxy on it, then we were fine, and he could do it as he needed. The other thing was I needed to be able to blend that tan into the white caps, the thread wrap, if you will, and I kind of sponge painted some similar colors to kind of
some suds
and some splashes.
And you did the suds in different layers too.
I did.
Different
I did the
layers
white
of epoxy.
Yeah, to try to kind of give it a 3D thing. You know, looking at this now, I'd rather do it again and do it better, but I think at that point in time, I was still like, it looks pretty awesome. I'm actually pretty proud of that rod. I think it looks really good. We still need to build the mate to that.
Yep.
Because this is an anchor rod. We need to build the fighting rod. Those white flowers are scrapbooking flowers, and they came with a little cork center, and I ripped the cork center off of them and stuck a nail thing on it. These were a little fat. They were kind of flippy, if you will. They had a little pad to them.
They're like a felt.
Yeah, no, they're not felt. They're kind of like squishy styrofoam, kind of.
Yeah.
But all I did was put I flattened those 2, but there's still a little bit of a tiny bit of the raise comes from the little nail gem that's on it. Another one again. This was a Marines. I was trying to mimic the dress blues, so I used the nail studs to match
the buttons.
The buttons, if you will. This one, I think, it turned out really good.
That red trim was a pain.
That's not even a trim. That was that single thread. So I had to pull through at the start of that wrap, and I had to pull through at the end of that wrap for just that single thread, and to yank it back under itself, because, I thought, that won't be bad. That'll be fine. I spent more time
fixing that,
lining those up and fixing those than I did wrapping the actual guides on there. And those red little lines run all the way up the rod. It's even on the no, I didn't do it on the tip, but I did it on the last guide on it. And I say I was infuriated by the end of this process. I was pretty mad, but it was worth it because it ended up looking pretty sharp. There's the French's. Why is that one way back here?
Jesus.
So the mustard, I think out of the three turned out the best.
Especially for how tiny the blank got.
Oh man. Like I was originally, and I'm going to say this wasn't all my idea for once. The customer and I were just talking and I was like, oh, it'd be funny if we could figure out how to get the condiments on there, you know? And he's like, oh, could you put the wrappers on there? And I was like, I don't know. Sure, because in my brain, his blank is the size of a normal fighting rod. Like, it's a live bait blank. But when I actually sit down and look at it, I thought, oh, crap, I just bit my foot off. Like, they're so tiny. And we were going to carry them all the way up to the tip. And then he came back and he was like, you know what, just put them on the first few and then, like, do the rest of them in the colors so that it, like, looks really good against the blank. And I was like, oh, thank God, because I don't know. Like, French's, just right there. That's bigger than the tip section is. The word. The word is...
Oh, the word is. Yeah. I thought you meant the section of blank. I was like, no.
No. The word is too wide. The word French's would wrap all the way around the tip. Michael Ward with his Jelly Belly rod. This one's pretty cool. These are not real jelly beans. These are little fake ones that he found. And the stories that I heard about this one and his videos and stuff that he put out about it, he had a lot of trouble trying to get these to stay underneath. Because if you chop into it, then you can't, you know... Now you've got to start over or make it bigger because they're not going to be sealed anymore. So he did an awesome job with this entire build, honestly. But this is this part right here. Like, it's just so bright and so pretty, even though it's not. Do they have blue jelly beans?
Yeah.
Do they? I don't eat jelly beans, so I don't know.
There's every color you can think of.
But it's so cool. Glad to see Randy Agresta putting some of his stuff in here because he makes ice rods and he does some cool stuff like putting little skulls on his, like, I kind of want to know where he gets all his little doodads and stuff, or if he makes them. He might make them. He might 3D print them and do stuff, but I don't know. But he's always got some really cool little additives that he puts on his ice rods. Like, is that the Predator?
That's what I would say.
That's the Predator face. Oh, even cooler. Very cool, very cool. I always enjoy looking at the stuff he posts because he's always got some
the helmets,
fun thing. Yeah, like the helmets, like this Vikings helmet. Like, where'd you get the little helmet from? You know, did you pull it off of one of those little bobblehead dudes? Are you pulling his helmet off and put it on there? Because that would be the perfect size, I would think, depending on
maybe.
Or the little what are they called? Panco? What are the ones?
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's the little dudes that are in the white boxes. I don't know. I don't collect them, so I don't remember what they're called.
Pez?
No, not Pez. Not the candy. The little... Oh, what are the collectibles? Or
Poppets?
They're not poppets. They're little people. They usually have, like, square heads, and they're, like, the little miniature versions of the stuff. It's like Benko or Pinko or something. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe somebody will know what I'm talking about. Or maybe they'll just think I'm crazy. Yeah, EVA butt. Look how fun that looks.
What character is that, Mary?
That's Darth Maul.
Good job.
Mm-hmm. Funko. Thank you, Jim.
Funko.
Funko.
Funko. You kept saying like Funko.
I don't know.
And I'm thinking like Fun Company. Like, what are you talking? Funko.
Funko. Little Funko dudes, you know?
Okay. Now I know what you're talking about.
Calgary Flames. Yeah, like these are nuts. Like, where do you get these little dudes? Da-da-da. Look at that grip. I'm kind of digging on that little kind of mosaic look.
Mm-hmm.
Mountain Dew can. Like, somebody likes the dew. There's your dew. We used to be addicted to that drink.
That's the worst drink you can have ever.
I can't stand the taste of it anymore, which is a good thing.
It's awful now. Like, and I used to drink it religiously.
Now, I've seen little miniature cans and stuff like that. Like, where is he shopping to find these things, or is he making them? Because I'd like to go on a walk with him. Because look, we got dice, we've got 8 balls, like, very cool stuff. Steve Williams, he was showing some stickers his wife found that they were thinking about putting on some rods, which, for the most part, stickers are going to work great. You just have to make sure that they're not going to fade.
Right.
And you really won't know if they're going to fade or not until you stick them out in the sun for a little while. Kind of a catch-22 with that. Steven Mendoza.
Stormtroopers.
He 3D printed a Stormtrooper for his rod, which is funny because I'm talking about doing a Stormtrooper, and I kind of feel like I need this for mine. I wonder how much you would charge me.
You have a 3D printer sitting over there.
Oh, yeah. Can you go get one for me?
I can teach you how.
No, you can do it for me. Thank you.
You're here more. You can monitor it and run it.
Nope. Look how cute it is. You know what was really nice is he's like put the ramp on it too, so it tapers down. How fun. So that's all some great examples of all the things that you can do to customize and think outside the box to make your theme kind of flow, or to really personalize it, or to, you know, take
Be
rings.
different.
Be different. Me put there's a bunch of stuff at Hobby Lobby. I could go on for an hour talking about the stuff at Hobby Lobby that I have in container down there. It's called the Special Box, where I've got beads. I've got eyeballs, like the little dragon eyes and stuff that you can buy.
Doorknobs.
There's doorknobs.
Cabinet pulls.
Cabinet pulls for butts specifically. There's a bunch of things in the jewelry making section. They've got all these little like square pieces and these like kind of rectangular pieces that taper out, and they're all like filigree kind of design. And if you want to take the time to kind of sit there and bend them, and they will bend, but don't bend them too fast because they'll snap. And ask me how I know, because I snapped quite a few in the process. But there's all kinds of things that we can do to add stuff to our rods. Some of them are going to be a little bit more time consuming. Some of them not going to be so time consuming. Some of them are going to be really easy. Is just like pull it off of the sticker background and stick it on there and call it a day. Or performance thing, if you're lacking something, like Chris Stanton did, he came up with a way to have like an activator where you visually can see that, oh, something's on it, and he's thinking outside the box in that part. Balancing is really where it gets to be kind of thinking outside the box. If you're going to be adding weight to the butt in order to balance out the rod, don't just do it by sticking in the ball bearings or whatever weights or whatever you use at the butt. You know, think about how you can add stone to it. Maybe that'll balance it out. You know, add something of a little bit heavier nature down there and kind of customize it, decorate it, you know. That's what the whole podcast is about. I always like to think outside the box because it takes that theme and it really just kind of hones it in. You know, like my Alice in Wonderland rod, for instance. It screams Alice from the actual butt literally up to the tip. And like every guide wrap represents a different character. The twins, Tweedledee and Tweedledum. There's the Cheshire Cat. There's Alice's on there, and it's just in the colors of the thread that I used on it. Now, if I don't explain it to you, or you're not super familiar with Alice the cartoon, the original one from Disney, then you may or may not really, you know, if you're not a big Alice fan, you're going to be like, why are they all different? Well, explain the story behind it, and you're like, oh, okay, you know, and then the teacups and all that stuff. And then I took the time, which I don't know why I didn't get her in there. The hole that Alice falls down, I actually drew this thing out flat on some sticky back paper. It's actually label paper. Sharon Walgamot is the one that tuned me onto this because she'll use it she uses different stuff than I had, but she'll actually put her paintings and stuff on her rods, and she just put out a video on YouTube on how she does hers, and she shared it across Facebook as well. But this paper, I literally sketched out the hole as she was falling down and like painted in everything, and then like just wrapped it around the blank, and now I had Alice's hole that was in the wrap area that it would have been. So, you know, carrying that theme, I always try to think of how can I do it. And obviously I love to do decorative wraps, but not every single build in these themes that I do is going to fit with having a decorative wrap. So I always just try to have fun with the process, and just always keep in mind that whatever you are doing, whatever you're adding to the rod, wherever you're placing it on the rod, you are not doing damage to performance. You're not hindering the blank from being at its full performance level. You're not going to hurt somebody's hand. That was the other thing. Blue didn't make it in here either. Her eyeballs that I put on our oldest foregrip, I had to make sure that his hand wouldn't be uncomfortable touching where her eyes were on the foregrip, so that it wasn't uncomfortable for him. Because if it's not comfortable to fish, you're not going to fish with it.
Right.
What's the point of having a wall hanger? I don't build rods to hang on walls. Everybody's always like, oh, I'd put that on the wall. Don't you dare put it on the wall. I want you to go fish with it. I want you to go fish with it, because that's the point of building the fishing rod. Otherwise, why don't I just, you know, buy a pull cue or a broom handle and have fun with it, and then you can hang it on the wall, you know? Don't do that. But you just always think about where their hands are going to be if you're going to add embellishments to the grips or performance. Like it has to function. That is that has to. Otherwise, it's why are we doing it? So that's the only thing really to keep in mind with it, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yup. What's our product of the night?
Thai Forged Air Tip Tops.
Woot woot. Why are these awesome?
They're especially awesome for repairs because there's no insert in them. I like them for weight savings and the fact that there is no insert. So knocking it on a fiberglass boat hull or hitting it on the wall or anything like that, you're not going to risk cracking that insert unknowingly and having issues with it.
I would even go as far to say that they're probably really good with kids.
Yep.
When we did the kids lines,
That's what we put on our oldest and our youngest.
We did use that for that. We also used those for Alice and Elsa, which Elsa was given away at the expo this year and ended up going to Jillian because Jillian built me a rod. I'm still trying to find a home for Alice, or I don't know, the longer she stays here, the more she's probably going to stay with me, but
it'd be good to take down there.
I will take Alice. Don't play. I'll fish with Alice. Alice will fish with Alice. Try them. They're pretty good.
Yeah.
I like them.
I like them especially for repairs.
I'm going to take a minute. Thank you to sponsors, Foundation Outdoor Group. They have a live video coming up next month at Mudhole, which is going to be on musky rods. I have never built one, don't know anything about them, so I'm going to be tuning into that and get a little bit of edumacation, if you will. And then also,
I gotta get my Vanna White in. Stop.
get your elbow off of me, or your arm off of me. And then we are going to October in a couple weeks now to teach. And Wes is officially on the roster to be a teacher there. He is teaching marbling. Woot woot. So he's going to have a whole class. And what's funny is that
It's at the same time, so guess Bob McCamey's gonna watch our kids.
our kids are coming with us this go around so they can understand what mom and dad do, and also, maybe get entered into the world a little bit, because kids don't like to listen to their parents, but they love to listen to other people. And maybe they'll understand a little bit of what mom does in the shop other than just blow stuff
Play with
up
fishing
and
rods.
play with stuff and thread and doodle and stuff like that.
Same time.
I'm on.
She's
and he's
A, I'm
on,
B.
because I was going to help him just kind of, you've never
Well, I've got to
actually-
mix a bunch of epoxy too.
I was going to help him with stuff, and so I guess you're going to take the oldest, and he's going to mix epoxy.
You're gonna take the youngest.
He's going to be asking me 30,000 questions while I'm doing it. So
What's this?
what's
What's
that?
this?
Why are you doing this?
Something I haven't seen.
Yeah, what's this? You're going to be singing the freaking Jack song. But it's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to it, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And we get to go fishing Thursday before with Todd Vivian, and I'm very excited about that. But
And the boys can fish in the pond too.
so it's going to be awesome. But it's been a great company to work for, and look forward to all the future endeavors that we have, hopefully, together. I do know that we're going to ICAST next year, so that's at least to go. And if you are not signed up or haven't booked your hotel rooms yet to go to the International Custom Rod Building Expo in February of next year,
Do it.
because the rooms are running out. Now, in order for you to be able to get a room, you need to call them, because Tom Kirkman, who runs the expo, has blocked out certain rooms, and we get a discount for being a group going to the expo. So
That weekend in particular,
There's
every
always-
year is sold out. There's either a national chess competition, national dance competitions.
there was
There was a soccer competition at one point that had indoor soccer.
There's always conventions
something.
and something else going on top of what we're doing too. So they sell out pretty fast, and if you don't get it at its discounted rate, those rooms actually on Saturday night for both the Marriott and
Go
the
way up.
Embassy that are actually attached to the convention center, they actually go up to $250 a night for Saturday specifically, because I was having problems going through the app trying to get it through, and I was like, that's not right. I should be paying like $800 for that. Like, that seems a little high. So I call them, and no, it was just the app was doing some stupid stuff. So if you haven't booked your hotel room and you want to stay on the property without having to drive in and pay for parking and stuff, you need to do it now. We're going, obviously, again. And we're going to have two booth spaces, but we're going to slightly set it up a little bit different than we did last year. 'Cause even though the little like V thing kind of worked, it kind of didn't work because it felt very claustrophobic on the backside of it.
Yep.
And I wasn't too keen on it. Apparently, my 16 feet is not the same as their 16 feet in a 20-foot space. So I don't know. I don't know what happened, because Wes and I both were arguing that it should have been more space, but I felt like somebody snatched a little bit off our corner. but it's going to be set up differently. Anyways, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. We do appreciate it. We're going to head out, but hopefully we kind of give you some ideas on how to think outside of the box and kind of add some cool little details or little, I don't know, fix a certain performance issue with your rod and, you know, look at other things that are not in the rod building industry to add into your builds. And, you know, whether that's looking at the nail people that have like little decals and the dried flowers and all, they have a bunch of stuff that you can use. And you have to think if it'll fit on your fingernail. It's pretty flat for the most part. It's going to work on a rod. Take a walk through Hobby Lobby or Michael's, any of the craft stores, and you're going to find a bunch of stuff that you're going to be able to utilize with a little bit of work that you can add some character to. Pendants, taking abalone and just using it as trim instead of like a whole little section or a wrap. Walking through Lowe's or Home Depot trying to find a winding jack for a specific size blank that you can't get one at a rod building component supply place, or making people upset because you put screws into a rod, you know, like that one was,
Yep.
that one's probably my favorite one I've done because I got a lot of people upset with me because they really legitimately thought that I had screwed those guides onto the blank, and it was just a giggle. And then I said, no guys, I didn't do that. I actually had a video about how I did it. I sanded off the heads and then stuck them on there whenever I put the epoxy on. And I got that idea from Nuno Molino. That was not my original idea. I got that from Nuno, from his inspirations book. And he is an inspiration because he does a lot of the outside of the box thinking. If you don't have that book, look into getting it because there's a lot of stuff he uses, like different leather skins, which Garrett Honecker says there's fabric versions of the leather now too. There's a plethora of things that we can use, so we don't have to just stay in the rod building components and that be our little happy space. We can start venture out and make things really unique or solve problems or just have fun. Really, that's honestly the name of the game. Have fun with it and have that theme kind of carry all the way up to the tip. Why are you doing that? I hate when you start doing that crap. You always are like, nope, I'm going to look opposite of her. But y'all have a great night, and we will chat later. Bye.
Bye.